I recently spoke with Congressman Doug Lamborn, ranking member of the Strategic Forces Subcommittee, about his priorities for hypersonic infrastructure and testing capabilities. Take a listen to our conversation.
Congressman Lamborn, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me on this important subject.
Well, the U.S. military says hypersonics will be in the field at the end of fiscal year 23. What investments need to be made, and what are you as a policymaker closely tracking this issue, thinking about this issue going forward?
Well, I think this is maybe the most important issue facing the future of our strategic forces in the military. I'm glad that we are developing a strong consensus in both chambers and between both sides of the aisle. We are putting $2 billion into this issue in various ways in this coming NDAA, and I'm really glad for that. One is a hypersonics initiative that Congress is adopting, and we are also developing more R&D dollars. One thing I am really concerned about that we need to do more of is testing. Testing is something we're behind on. We're behind China and even Russia for that matter. But China have everybody. They are the pacing threat, and we are behind China.
Why are we behind China?
You know, I'm going to try to get to the bottom of that as to why we neglected this for 10 or more years. We were the leading technology developer in this area, and then we kind of dropped it as a country, thinking other things were higher priorities. I don't know if it was the global war on terror or counterterrorism or what the issue was, but certainly there's been a pivot in recent last couple of years toward major power competition. Maybe that's part of the reawakening of the need, but also just seeing how much China and Russia is doing in this area. It was a year ago that China did a round the world test of a hypersonic vehicle, and that really got everyone's attention.
How bipartisan is this issue? You know, defense spending in general is a very tough, polarizing issue. Is there support on both sides of the aisle for this?
There really is support on both sides of the aisle. We recognize that as a country, we are behind China and even Russia for that matter. And this is not a good situation. Hypersonic vehicles, as you know, are those things that can fly 5 times or more times the speed of sound, 3,000 miles an hour or faster, and are maneuverable. So it's a whole new type of offensive capability. And we are behind, no doubt about it. Like you said earlier, Bob, the Army hopes to have something operational by the end of the next calendar year. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that they achieve that goal. The Navy and the Air Force are working diligently on this as well. But I think our goal in Congress has to be to make them work faster and harder and smarter. I know they want to, but we need to make sure they have the resources and the people and the testing capability to get this done.
Now, I know you said this is a bipartisan issue, but will the topic get more attention or more hearings next year if, as expected, the House flips to Republicans?
Well, if I have the good fortune of being the chairman of the Subcommittee on Strategic Forces, it's absolutely going to get a lot more attention. It's my #1 priority.
And what's the role? You've talked about the role of Congress. What about the role of stakeholders here and industry partnering with government? Because obviously this is the future here we're talking about, and national security and protecting the homeland.
Bob, all of the above need to be heavily involved. Administration, DOD, industry, academia to supply the people, the young talent that's going to grow into this area and become through apprenticeships and so on to get attached to this area with industry or the military and produce great creative breakthroughs. We need more technology R&D, and we need more dollars, frankly, from Congress to make it happen.
What about the issues that have come up during COVID? We've had a labor shortage. We've had supply chain problems around the globe, which certainly has affected us. How is that affecting, or could it affect hypersonics?
It could affect that and so many other areas of cutting edge technology. We are facing a shortage of highly qualified people. We need to do a better job, industry, the military, and academia, to get our act together and get these young minds pointed in the right direction and well trained and motivated. There's a lot to offer in these areas. People can really contribute to our national security by getting involved and dedicating their talents and future to this area, and I sure hope they do so.
What would you say? There's some who follow politics, many on the left, who say, we spend a lot of money on defense. Why is this so important? Why should it be a priority?
Well, if it's just money they're concerned about, I think it's not really what their priority is. But if money is what they're concerned about, it'll cost a lot more if we get way behind and we start getting threats and outmaneuvered on the world stage by countries like China. They don't have a Western set of values that they adhere to. Look at their human rights record. It's abysmal. And we don't want that kind of force in the world dominating world events. So it's going to cost a lot more and be a lot more perilous and dangerous and negative for the world if they have their way, and we can't match them. I think what we need, Bob, is hypersonic parity. We need to have an equal ability to produce the technology. We'll worry about the numbers later, but to have the qualitative parity where we can match what they do. And rather than being destabilizing, I think that that's actually the most stabilizing thing if we have parity.
What about since China and Russia have made advances on hypersonics, how can we protect ourselves from their weapons?
One thing we need to do is also, at the same time as we're developing an offensive capability, is to develop a defensive capability. And I know that the Missile Defense Agency is working hard on this. We also are working to put into space a system of satellites, the HTBSS, hypersonic, hypersonic and ballistic tracking space sensor layer. We're going to have a couple of those satellites up in orbit, I believe, by next year, but it's going to take a whole constellation. But that'll be the beginning, because right now we don't really have the ability to adequately cover the tracking and the even the fire control when it comes to that of hypersonic vehicles. So we need to have the sensor layer in space, and we need to work on an interceptor vehicle. So Missile Defense Agency, I believe, is going to be working on a glide face interceptor, but this is really mostly on the books, on the drawing board right now.
And do you think that kind of capability could be possible within the next couple, 5, 10 years?
Bob, it's certainly my hope that we do have that defensive capability. Like I said earlier, I believe that is the most stabilizing thing, is if we have a defensive capability to go along with whatever offensive capability that we have.
Is there anything you'd like to see more from the Biden administration on hypersonics?
We need to just take this real seriously as a threat that we have to match. We have to do better at having testing capability, whether it's full body testing or whether it's component testing. We are working on some facilities, small and large, to do both full vehicle and component testing. That's a good step, but we need to do more. We need to have a space tracking layer when we do testing. Right now, it's cumbersome through surface vessels on the ocean tracking these vehicles. That's cumbersome and expensive and not very flexible. So we need to have that as a testing capacity as well.
Last question. How important is educating the American public here? I imagine a lot of people don't know what a hypersonic vehicle is. And I guess that would be highlighted perhaps in your hearings next year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know people are concerned about this, but we just have to make it a priority. I'm glad that the Hill is reporting on this important issue. People like yourselves are getting involved. It's just something that we do have to educate the American people. China has been basically stealing a march on us in this area, and we can't let that continue.
Congressman Lamborn, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
it.